podcast. I'm back. Galen's in a press box. He can't be loud. Holy crap. Let's go.
Oh, my God.
I'm wearing the Omar Cooper Jr. jersey. I was debating between this and Surratt. I bought one. I love them both. But I was like, let's go Omar Cooper. Like, he makes great plays. He made a great play. Oh, my God. Welcome to Crimson Cast. We're live. Let's go. Scream big. Cool Cave. I'm with you.
I like how Scott's taking all my lines here. He should, because I don't know that I'm not capable of speech at this point. I am, just to show people.
Oh, we lost your audio. Are you muted?
I did. I disconnected myself. We're
Sorry.
good now. I just was showing people I'm in the press box here at Beaver Stadium, and we are live after Indiana pulls off an improbable comeback in the final 2 minutes and wins at Penn State for the first time in program history. 27-24. Scott, I don't believe what I just saw. I mean, there's so much to talk about, and we'll dive into it all here, but I want to start at the end. The throw by Fernando Mendoza and the catch by Omar Cooper Jr., those are top 3 plays in Indiana football history that we just witnessed.
That catch might be the catch of the year
an
in college
absolutely
football.
Insane level of execution at the very tail end of things there. And the Hoosiers somehow, again, find a way to get it done on the road, a place they've never won before. And they pushed the record to 10-0. And it felt like all had been lost, really. Like, and we'll talk about it in more detail. But what a finish for this Indiana team! What an environment that they had to do it in. It was very loud here. There were a lot of IU fans, but there were a lot more Penn State fans, and it looked like Indiana had essentially just kind of left on the sidelines the chance to pull off a win here. And then they somehow pull it out at the end. I'm still trying to process everything.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, the last throw and catch were unbelievable, but Mendoza made 5 or 6 unbelievable throws. The Becker's catch to get it in the red zone was unbelievable. He made a couple of amazing catches. Yeah, just an unbelievable win. I mean, just unbelievable win. One that Indiana just doesn't normally make, not on the road. Yeah, Becker had a great game. Omar Cooper Jr., it's unbelievable. It's funny. I saw a tweet. I think it was from Ryan, our own Ryan Phillips, who said, well, after that pick, it's like, all right, well, Mendoza lost his Heisman. Like, let's just try and get a win. It's like, we got to win. And Mendoza might have gotten his Heisman at least back to level where he was before. I mean, that whole drive was unbelievable.
I mean, it was. And especially when you consider it started with him getting sacked.
Right.
And with the offensive line, again, not being able to give him protection to get the throws out. But that throw to Omar Cooper that got the first down immediately after that, and then just the systematic way that they moved the ball down the field. One of the things that I keep coming back to with this team, even more so than last year, is their mentality and their desire to go out and do what they need to do to win games like this. And as much as we talked before the game about how Penn State was like a unique challenge because it's not a team that's played well. I mean, the stadium was only about 75% full at kick. The fan base has clearly backed off. But we knew that this Penn State team had a ton of talent. We knew this Penn State team still had some pride. And, it looked like Indiana had figured out how they were going to handle it. They looked like very much in control at the end of the first half. They start off by generating a turnover there at the beginning of the second half, and it looks like they're on easy street. And then, Penn State did what they are capable of doing. They started to assert themselves physically. And much like the Michigan game last year, Scott, you're suddenly in a battle with a team that is either equal to or superior to you from a physicality perspective. And, it was worrisome being here in the stadium from the IU perspective, watching them struggle to do anything offensively. And you were relying on the defense, which has, been so good all year. And the defense could not make stops when they needed to, except on that drive leading into the 2-minute warning. And they finally made the stop that they needed to make. And then it was on the offense. It's like, guys, the defense can't do anything else at this point. And so to watch Fernando Mendoza, who did not have a good game,
Right.
who did not get great blocking, but also didn't make the throws that he needed to make. To watch him be able to lead the team down the field like that is what it may not, the Heisman is not important right now, but that's what you have to do in a season where you want to try to challenge for a Big Ten title, where you want to try to challenge for a national title. That's the kind of thing that you have to do. And I could not be more impressed with the moxie and the resolve that Indiana played in or played with down the stretch to put them in the position to win the game and then to actually pull it off. I mean, I'm speechless.
Yeah. One, and again, next man up is like Elijah Surratt isn't playing in this game, and you have Charlie Becker come in and get 7 receptions for 118 yards. Omar Cooper Jr. only 6 receptions, but just the most unbelievable touchdown you've ever seen. Noah Kowski goes for 51 yards. Just unbelievable. And I'm with you. There was a point there in the middle where it did feel like, man, we had a chance to put them away. We didn't. Kind of a playing with your food feel. And then you let Penn State kind of get into mode and then let the crowd get into it. But, to me, this is very reminiscent of the Iowa game where you're kind of at a point where it's like, oh my gosh, like we're a play or two away from this thing being over, which is the same thing here. And it's like you let the crowd become a hindrance, another part of the game. You let the team get a little bit into it. But what's amazing is that in neither case did the team made the plays they had to make.
Yeah.
In the Iowa game, it was the defense and then the offense. And this time it was the offense, or it was the defense and the offense and the defense. But this is building resolve and moxie with this team of like, we know we can do this. And now it's clear sailing. Like you're done with hard home environments the rest of this season. It's now relatively easy games at home, easy games on the road, and then it's going to be tough games, but in neutral sites. Like you just did it. You solved, you had a season you've gone through. There are no more tough road games on your schedule.
Yeah, I mean, we knew this was going to be a challenge for this IU team. And this was where, if you watch the preview podcast that I did a couple of days ago, I thought that Penn State's offense was just going to have trouble in the second half if they were down by a couple of scores, and they proved me wrong. And they ran the ball well. They threw the ball when they needed to. I thought Grunkenmeyer, this was by far his best game, and they clearly worked some wrinkles in that IU's defense was not anticipating. And it really relied on Indiana being able to do more on offense than they did. But the fact that Indiana figured out a way at the end to make it happen. And you think about the whole sequence of events that happened on that last drive, and just like the precision with which Indiana was able to make that Noah Kowski catch over the middle just completely reset what you could do on that drive. It was almost
also before that there was the EJ Williams that make it a first down where it's
no question. And I don't want to take anything away from that or take anything away from the Cooper catch, but like getting that 30+ yard chunk play suddenly put you in a position. And Charlie Becker, I mean, 2 incredible catches. Not just the one where he gets the foot down and gives them the 1st and goal, but the one earlier in the game, that 40+ yard catch that he had that put them in position for the first touchdown. I mean, that is to be able to come in. If you're Charlie Becker, you weren't anticipated to start or play that much this year.
Right.
You're filling in for Elijah Surratt, who's an All-American wide receiver, and you make the kind of plays that he made in this game. That's what you have to have if you're going to win a Big Ten title or a national title. And this is the thing. It's like some people will, in the national media or maybe even in the local media, will seize on the opportunity to look at this game and say, well, Indiana didn't measure up. Penn State's a weak team. Indiana was favored by 14.5 or whatever it was. You're going to have games like this. I mean, it's hilarious to me that if Alabama had this game at an SEC opponent, they'd be like, oh, see, this is how tough the SEC is. Right. Indiana won't get credit for this game. This is a tough environment to win in, and it's a place Indiana's never won before. You have to have those contributions from guys who have to step up in these types of moments, and the fact that they managed to put it together when it mattered on that last drive, it's very unusual territory for us as IU fans to watch that taking place, but it is absolutely a representation of the DNA that this team has demonstrated now over and over and over again. And you mentioned like the Iowa game. This felt so much like that.
Right.
I mean, the feeling that you had when I honestly, when Cooper came down with that ball, I didn't think he was in. I was like, well, he was out of bounds. And then when they signaled a touchdown, I was like, well, it's going to get overturned. So it was a little bit of a delayed gratification compared to the Surratt catch in the Iowa game. But it's the same type of play at roughly the same moment in the game.
Right.
And to watch Indiana be able to execute the way that they did in that moment, to stay cool, for Penn State was sending the house on every single play.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't even blame the offensive line for not giving Mendoza enough time. Fernando Mendoza, his stats won't look great from this game, but that was a Heisman level throw, and it was for Omar Cooper Jr. What a validating catch for him. What a moment for a guy that has poured his heart and soul into this team. Was frustrated last year because he wasn't getting the ball as much, and to be in a position to make the winning play as the number one receiver in this game and to make that kind of a catch, to have the foot control and the body control, to be I don't know if I've ever seen that in an IU uniform, like to that degree. That's just
It was
wild.
unbelievable that he kept one foot above and then touched the other one in. The other one's like hovering above the outline. I like you. I was like, wow, what a catch. That's out. And then it's like, oh, a touchdown. It is going to be overturned. And then I saw the replay. It's like, I don't think it's going to be overturned. Like, I think that's a touchdown. Everything you said is true, but it's like, it continues to be the next man up. Aiden Fisher is out for 2 weeks and it's the next man up. Aiden Fisher comes back this week. That's great. Surratt's out 2 weeks. It's like Becker steps up, Cooper steps up in the moment. Like it is a testament to the players. It's a testament to the coaching staff that you are able to just have, next guys come up and play amazingly. And this is, you're right. Like you're not going to win every game. You're not going to cover every spread. But this is when we were in the bowels of college football looking up. Like this is what you would look at teams like Ohio State and, Michigan when they're good, or the Alabamas. Like, man, they get it done when it matters. Like, most of the time they kick the shit out of everybody. And then, they have a couple of close games against Ole Miss or whatever. It's like, but they always figure out a way to win. It's like, that's what this team just did. And has shown us is like, they've had 2 games where they figured out a way to win. This in Iowa. They had a game where they controlled a good team in Oregon. And then the rest of the games, they just kick the shit out of everybody. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. It's, you've got to learn how to win in multiple ways if you're going to win titles. And that's what Kurt Signetti and this coaching staff have tried to instill in this team. And it's not always going to be easy. I mean, and it's just like the guys that stepped up. Aiden Fisher had a great game coming back, but I want to give a special shout out to Isaiah Jones, who on that third down, right before the 2-minute warning, like Penn State does this thing where they swing their entire offensive line. 4 guys, I think, went in motion and went from the right side to the left side. Jones, not Fisher. Jones not only keeps his eye on who his man is, who's in the backfield, but manages to avoid getting chip blocked by somebody coming out of the backfield, tackles the guy in the open field, which sets up the ability to get the punt that sets up that entire drive. Like, it's little things like that that make the difference. And for Indiana football historically, and there's so many people in the mentions right now in the comments talking about how this feels so cathartic. If you're an IU football fan, and you have been for a long time, and you've seen Indiana come out on the wrong side of these things so often, it's the little stuff like that that has always been a huge differentiator between what we've seen out of IU football and what we've seen out of the actual championship level programs. And it's just, I felt this way at the end of the first half when Penn State fumbles the ball, Indiana punches it in.
Right.
They get a 2-score lead. It's almost like a reverse Uno with football programs. I felt the same way at the end of the game here. It's like, we don't make those plays, man. We don't make those plays at Indiana, and yet here we do. It's the best kind of unexpected if you're an Indiana football fan. And I don't know what it was like watching it on television, but I can tell you in the stadium, I don't think there was a soul in here that thought that Penn State was going to lose that game, even as the drive was going on, because that's just kind of the game you win in Happy Valley.
No, and it got progressively, I mean, you were there, but on TV, it was progressively louder. Minus the quarterback, Drew Altmaier, or
no, Grunkenmeyer.
No, the one who got hurt. Their quarterback,
Drew Aller.
Drew Aller. I mean, minus the fact they're missing their quarterback. What I also take away from this game is you beat a number 2 team at home playing like that. Like that second half, they were showing shots of the Penn State players on TV, and they looked fired up, and it got way louder on TV. And it's like, oh my God, this sounds like, again, it didn't look full, but it's like Happy Valley is engaged. And so, it wasn't like you just beat the carcass of a team. Like, they got their dead cat bounce. And in a way, that second half, you were playing the Penn State team that was ranked in the top 10 to start the season. Again, minus their starting quarterback, but you did it against their defense, which their defense is all there. And you were able to get this done. So to me, it's like, this is even better. But again, in a great way, as Signetti said in the post-game interview, is like, we got a lot of stuff to work on. So it's like, this is great, because this gives you, if this had gone like Maryland, that would have been awesome. And I'm sure Signetti would have found stuff to work on, but this gives you a lot of material to work on for the next, 4 weeks as you get ready for the Big Ten, Wisconsin, Purdue, and then the Big Ten title game. I will say, you didn't see it. Signetti, to start the game, they interviewed him, and he's just, I love the man. Like, media wise, I love him. She's the sideline reporter is like, well, Indiana's never won here. What are your thoughts on that? And he's like, this team has never won here.
Right.
Like, this team has never played here. And it's like, and you said, like, you had some things you were concerned about with Penn State. That he's like, all that's out the window. Like, time for concern is over. Now it's time to execute and to get things done. Thank you very much. Like, walked off. It's like, God, I love Signetti.
I know. No, I mean, I didn't get to see any of that because I was obviously there. But but I saw a lot of tweets about it, and it was it's the attitude that you got to have if you're going to do this stuff. I mean, you've got to put your team in a mental space where you don't, it's like that scene from Hoosiers, it's like, don't worry about the size of the crowd or their fancy uniforms or whatever.
Right.
And it's easy to say, oh, just go into Penn State and win. And it's one thing if you're Northwestern and you come in and no one's expecting you to win and you pull off an upset. It's another thing if you're the number 2 team in the country and you're going to get their best shot. And ultimately, Indiana, they did just enough to win. They got to do more. They got to do better. They're going to be tougher games. But to really, I think, key on a point that you made, unless something unexpected happens in the last 2 regular season games, this gets you to the Big Ten title game. It gets you to a position where, regardless of what happens in that game, unless you lose by like 70, which seems unlikely,
you're probably getting a bye.
You're probably getting a bye, which means this is the hardest place that you will play from this point forward. And that's huge. I mean, it really is. Now, Indiana's got some things they need to fix from a physicality perspective. They've got some things they've got to fix from an execution perspective. Offensive line probably looked the weakest that it's looked since Iowa. They looked better against Oregon. They looked better, obviously, against Illinois. You're going to face off or defensive fronts like this. And Penn State, they have demonstrated you can send the house against Indiana, and it's going to be hard to pick that up. But I also think we got to note Indiana adjusted in that last drive, and they figured out, all right, we got to get the ball out quick. We got to figure out a way to get it over the top, and they did it. They put the pieces together right when they needed to. You got one more game, and then you got to buy.
That full blitz thing, the full blitz. We're talking the wide receivers. They did great today, but you're doing all this without Surratt. So if you add Surratt to this, that's another guy who can get open on a full blitz. And you saw that against Iowa. That's what Surratt did, is he just ran a crossing route and got open, did it against Oregon. And that is, to me, what this win unlocks is just how important it is, where, you don't need to worry about style points or anything. Just, you got to beat Wisconsin, you got to beat Purdue, but you're now not scrambling to try and get those done. You give Surratt another week. It gives you the ability to take those games, and if you do get that bye, it gives you another week to get healthy. Because I know we talked about it last week. Teams that played, it didn't get the bye last year did well, but you see it with this team. It is there's injuries and they're starting to stack up, and none of them are end of seasoning, but they are ones where you need just a little bit more time. And so this is a team that could use that extra time, that extra break between, getting to the Big Ten title game and then after the Big Ten title game. So this was just such a huge win, but a lot of the, and even the offensive line, you had a couple of injuries there too. A lot of the concerns I do think will get solved when you start getting the entire team back. I think that is part of it, is Mendoza hasn't been as great, but he also hasn't had his number 1 receiver. And that just, that cascades down. And Becker did great. Cooper did great, but it's like you start, they should be in slots 2, 3, 4. It's not 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I mean, look, the team's got to get healthy. They've got to. I mean, you got one more game, as I was going to say before we got on that track, but they got one more game against Wisconsin. You get a week off. You got to go to Purdue, which is going to be tough. I mean, the energy with which Penn State played in this game, you're going to get that from Purdue as well. Purdue does not have the same quality of players, obviously, but it's a rivalry game. But yeah, you need to get to the break. You got to give yourself some space to get healthier. As you mentioned, like you're playing without your top wide receiver, you're playing without your left guard.
Right.
They threw a new guy in at left guard who hadn't played hardly at all this year, and you somehow find a way to win in a game where, yeah, you were favored by 2 touchdowns, and look, that's why spreads only matter to gamblers at the end of the day. If you're looking at it as a relative level of power or effectiveness, that's not really how it works. But what does matter is winning. And Indiana figured out a way to win in this game. And that's the most important thing. And this team, again, it's like you can talk all you want about how you think a game is going to go or how you think an environment is going to be. When you get into it, you got to figure out a way. And sometimes it's a lot harder than you think it's going to be. And we've seen a lot of Indiana teams get into these positions in the past and not be able to pull it out. The fact that they pulled it out the way that they did it fills your soul with something that we don't normally get as IU fans. And it was great. I mean, I was both up here in the press box and I was down in the stands, and I came back up to the press box. I got to see a ton of IU fans, a lot of fans of the podcast who we got a chance to chat with. Everybody was feeling real good at halftime. And everybody was feeling real bad there with about 5 minutes to go in the game. And
so it's funny. I'm not live. I'm watching the game on TV, and I think I'm caught up. And then I get a text from you, just like, "Hey man, I'll be ready, but it may not be a fun, like whatever you said, like it's not going to be may not be a fun podcast." At that point, like we're down, I think 24-20.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, like, but I was thinking like, there's still hope. We're still going to get the ball. Like, I mean, but I got your sentiment. And then my sister-in-law, I have a text thread with her and my wife, and she just says like, "Well, shoot, now we got to get a touchdown and an onside." And I'm like, "Oh no, like, am I behind?" Like, I'm like, shoot. And I'm like so scared to look at my Apple app because I'm like, I just got to see what the hell's going on. Like, as I look at the hat, I'm like, no, it is 24-20, like a minute 42 left. Like, she's just wrong. Like, all right, that's done. I was like, that's done. And I had a moment where I was like, oh no, like what happened? But it was not the case. So
Scott, we need to get to everybody's favorite segment. I think we got to do some recite the drives here.
Do you have the song loaded up?
I don't, for whatever reason. It does not seem to be. Do you have it? Could you see it in the?
Do our 2 promos for a second, and then I'll be ready to lock it in.
All right, hold on. We'll be back. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after these promos. Hold on just 1 second, folks.
If you're not listening to Sideline Stories with Trisha Whitaker and Sydney Parrish, you're missing great stories like this.
When you interviewed Signetti, did you know that he was the type of character that he is and so outspoken and just like what we call a soundbite machine?
No, not really, but I did realize in the first phone conversation how he was just so authentic. Literally at the end of the conversation, I'll never forget it. And I thought about Coach Knight a little bit because I'd heard that people asked Coach Knight when he took the Indiana job, and they'd say, "Why did you go to Indiana?" And he said, "Because I could win there." So I'm on the phone with Coach Sig, and at the end, I said, "Do you think you could win here?" And he said, "Scott, let me just tell you this. If I have average resources, I will win. Trust me." I remember thinking, I believe it. I really did. And I remember hanging up, and I called President Whitten. I said, "Hey, I just finished up with Coach Signetti," and I said, "Hey, I think he's different."
Sideline Stories is part of the Back Home Network. Subscribe on YouTube and Spotify.
Welcome back to Crimson Cast. It's time for America's favorite segment, folks. Get ready.
It's now time for Recite the Drives. That is so great.
I love it. I mean, it's like Match Game meets IU football. It's amazing. Recite the Drives, as always, brought to you by our good friend Jeremy Barbuto. acquisition officer for Ironhorn Enterprises. Jeremy is buying commercial real estate, folks. Give him a call, 315-436-3872, or shoot him an email, jeremy@ironhornenterprises.com. Scott, I'm just going to call him up. You can do whatever you want with these. Hold on one second here. I'm actually, hold on. I need to switch over real quick. Let's see if I can get it to share. It's not letting me share, Scott. Can you share off of ESPN?
ESPN, all plays. Where's the scoring plays?
I'm having some Wi-Fi problems here.
Where's the drive? I usually normally pull up on the IU one.
You're watching us operate in real time here, folks. Go to ESPN, go to the game, go to team stats, or excuse me, go to play-by-play. Hit play-by-play. You'll find the drives there.
All plays. Okay. All right. We are going to we're going to screen share.
Yep.
Don't show these tips again. We are going to allow.
Yeah.
Chrome tab. Sorry, guys.
While we do this, I'll answer Gabe's question. I don't know who we should root for in this Iowa-Oregon game. We'll come back to that in a second.
All right. I got it up here. We're just going to go straight up. So you have, it doesn't start off great there in the first quarter. You have just punt, and then IU scores a touchdown. So a lot of, 3 plays, 6 plays, 3 plays. We're just going to go through to get us to halftime. You do have a Penn State touchdown, but then so Indiana's first half goes punt, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. And I think for most Indiana fans, myself included, was like, all right, this is similar to UCLA and Maryland in that we struggle a little bit. Maryland struggle a little bit, and then it's like once we got the engine going, it's just field goal, touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. So I was like, all right, we come back in the second half. This might be a fun recite the drives where we just keep it going. And it's like, man, just took them two drives to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, I felt real good at halftime. Like it really did feel like, especially after that ending sequence where the fumble happens and then Indiana punches it in after a couple of plays. It's like, okay, great. You're up 17-7. Penn State has not shown no juice on offense. Feels like you're in good shape. Anyway, then what happens in the second half, Scott?
In the second half, we'll go for, Penn State. We'll start with Penn State. They have the interception to start off, which I think we are all feeling good. But then Penn State's drives go field goal, touchdown, punt, end of game. And that was the stretch where they really took control. Just every drive after that interception was 10-play field goal, 6-play touchdown, 7-play touchdown, and really based on the back of Singletary, their running back, was we had a really hard time stopping him, and they were doing a great job of running with him. For Indiana, man, third quarter, 1 drive. Didn't fully realize that. 1 drive for a field goal. So again, you think you're doing well as an Indiana fan because you go touchdown, field goal, touchdown. You start second half field goal, but then we go punt, interception, punt. 8-play punt, 2-play interception, 4-play punt. Just not an ideal fourth quarter, not an ideal third quarter where you only touch the ball 1 time, but then 10-play, 73 yards, touchdown in a minute 50.
It's the only drive that mattered. Like really, yeah. I mean, in that whole second half, and that's the thing with Indiana. I mean, I do think, and we've talked about this a little bit in relation to a couple of games that Indiana's played so far this year. Iowa, this one, Oregon a little bit, although I think Indiana really demonstrated that they could go head-to-head against them from a physicality perspective. But Penn State and Iowa are so good defensively and have such good talent. Yeah. And Indiana's offensive line struggled in both those games that you look at the way that Indiana tried to play offense, and it just didn't work the way that they like to play offense normally. You go look at the statistics from this game, and I think the thing that's the most jarring to me is that Indiana only averaged 3.5 yards per rush, which is way low but it is almost exactly the level of rushing that they were accruing in the games against Iowa and against Oregon. Like you go back and look at those games, Indiana rushed for 2.67 yards against Iowa. They rushed for 3 yards per carry against Oregon. Every other game, it's been a minimum of 4.7 yards per carry. And so you've got another game where your running attack is stymied, and the passing attack, unfortunately, and I mean, Surratt being out, it makes a huge difference. Surratt is so good. Yep. He is so big. He's so hard to cover. When you don't have that, you don't have the flow that you need in order to be able to effectively move the ball down the field. And again, taking
the other thing with him being out too is that Omar Cooper Jr., outside of having the catch of the year, is also one of the best blocking wide receivers I've seen in years. And when he steps up to become kind of the number one receiver, that's great. But you use him less as a blocker, and so there is something there where you lose one of your best blockers because now Cooper Jr. has to be catching more balls because there's not there for Surratt. So I think that's again kind of that downfield or that downstream effect that you get by having Surratt out.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, and it taking nothing away from Charlie Becker or any of the receivers,
right?
But I mean, do you realize, Scott? And I didn't realize this till I just looked at the stat sheet. Charlie Becker, 7 catches, 118 yards in this game.
His total for his career coming into the game was 7 catches.
Yeah, I mean, just that is an absolute performance from a guy who, I mean, he's from a football family. He's an Ohio State legacy who's at Indiana, and he has been kind of around the margins. And it's funny. I remember coming into the season, a lot of people talking about LeBron Bond, promising freshman who I think has a great future in front of him in an Indiana uniform. But Charlie Becker being able to come in and fill in the way that he did in this game and play the way that he did in this game allowed Indiana to win this game. And that catch, that I mean, as much as we will talk about the Cooper catch, and it should be talked about, that is Omar Cooper Jr., that is an NFL caliber catch that he makes at the end there. But Charlie Becker made an NFL caliber catch to put him in position to make that catch at the end of the game. That is the type of execution that you have to have if you're going to win games like this. And so hats off to him.
That also says to me, like, I love that with this team, Mendoza is like, I'm throwing to who's open or who I think can catch, not, Becker's only had 7 catches his career. Like, I'm going to throw a bunch to EJ Williams and Omar Cooper. It's like, I'm going to throw to whoever's open. And, that's the thing with that catch that Becker had to set up the touchdown is that was so much trust Mendoza just being like, all right, man, I'm throwing it up there and you're going to have to make an NFL level catch to catch this. And the trust to have it and, not to be like, all right, we're just going to rely on, who are the next 2 guys. Like, I'm just going to rely on whoever's open and whoever has the best shot. And, regardless of where you are on the depth chart. And that's just an awesome place to be and a great team.
Yeah. I mean, and look, I mean, let's give the defense some credit. I mean, they made the stop there in that last drive both the last drives that Penn State had when it mattered. There was an interesting comment from earlier on. I don't know if I'll be able to find it because we've gotten so many comments. Here it is from Jim Wyatt. Thoughts on IU being offsides on that final drive? Should the quarterback have spiked the ball immediately to save the clock? Yes, he should have. And that was the thing. I was standing next to Jared Kelly from Peegs up here in the press box, and we saw the offside. It's like, and then they threw the ball, and it took 5 seconds off the clock. And it's like, well, would you trade 5 yards for 5 seconds in this particular scenario? And the answer is absolutely yes. And so, but
they
also
talked about on TV, they took a second, but that pass looked to be behind the receiver, which if it's a backwards pass, you should run the clock. So it's possible they could have run the clock on that also. The other thing at the end of the game that I texted you this, like I didn't love the squib kick. I understand.
The squib kicks works if you get another 15 yards downfield, but they didn't there.
That one was just a very poorly executed. I didn't love that, but no, Penn State made a couple of mistakes. Like right after that, you should have spiked the ball, and then you give yourself 3 possessions. They might have had one more chance to try and get a field goal.
Yeah, there were a lot of little mistakes and a lot of little executional things. And Curt Cignetti, as you mentioned, talked about it in the post game a little bit. It's like you got a lot to fix, but it's a lot easier to fix things after a win when you're 10-0, and B, these are the kinds of games. As a team, you come out of these games and you're like, well, we did a bunch of things wrong and we still managed to win in this type of an environment. And you did it in amazing, dramatic style. And that adds a coherence to what you can do as a football team that you don't get, as much as the talk of college football over the course of the last several weeks has been, Indiana just blows everybody out. Indiana just goes out and wants to reap your soul from your body. That's true. But this is the kind of game that adds the coherence that you need to be able to handle the really tough moments. Anyway, I wanted to summarize, well, not summarize, but we did want to close out the Drives. Just again, remind you, Recite the Drives brought to you by Jeremy Barbuto from Ironhorn Enterprises. Buying commercial real estate. If you've got commercial real estate to sell, give Jeremy an email, jeremy@ironhornenterprises.com, 315-436-3872. Jeremy, thank you, as always.
Still haven't lost since you joined us.
Also, quick reminder, we are brought to you by Posh Hotel Bloomington. Go to poshhotelbloomington.com. They are there for your luxury hotel accommodation needs.
Don't know if they have rooms for Wisconsin, but check. If you haven't got your Wisconsin room, check it right now.
Anyway, I got to wrap up because we're going to have to close up shop here in the press box. But Scott, final thoughts from you before we do so.
I mean, that is unlike any win I've ever seen an IU football team have. That is a play we just don't normally make, just a drive. And what's wild is I do feel my soul as a fan changing, because there's a part of me, it's like it's not over yet. Like our defense could still stop them. Our offense still has a chance. And that's unlike I would have been a couple years ago, where I'd just been like, all right, well, we just lost this. Like, damn it. We had a chance and we lost it. And, you know, that win was awesome. But as I take a breath, so much was earned by that win. Like not ranking, who cares, but just everything we talked about, that it now frees you to kind of go into Wisconsin and Purdue without really a care. Just go in and you can demolish them or win those games. You do what you need to do. But it sets you up where your path to getting that top 4 seed in the college football playoff is there. And your path, you know, unabated straight to the Big Ten title game is there. And it keeps the momentum of just unbelievable excitement for this team going. Not that the fans wouldn't have been a sellout for Wisconsin, but it's like this. Just there's no reason why now you can't go into Indy on December 6th or whatever it is, playing, you know, whoever we play in the Big Ten title game, being like, we're going to kick their ass. Like, we're going to win this game. We've done it against Iowa. You know, you never give up like it. But just for this season, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but it is something we talked about. Like, you need special little things to happen in a season to win a national championship. And this feels like if we end up getting to that path, or we start moving our way toward that, this is one of those moments where you look back and it's like, man, Cooper makes that catch, which gives us the ability to get a bye in the CFP, which, you know, gives us a 4 seed, which maybe, you know, looking at the projections right now, if they are, it's like we wouldn't play Ohio State, Alabama, or Georgia until the final.
Look, people slobbered all over themselves in the national media for a week after Alabama struggled to win by 7 at a South Carolina team that is currently 3-6. I don't want to hear a thing about this game from anybody. I mean, look, I'll say what I said last year. The Michigan game, you kind of felt like was the fulcrum point of the season. You felt like if they could get over the hump, knowing the historical issues with Michigan, knowing the physical match there, if they could win that game at home, like it elevated the season to something that it wouldn't have been otherwise. It got them into the CFP last year. This is different stakes this year. Winning at Penn State, now you've won at Iowa, you've won at Oregon, you've won at Penn State, and I'm sorry, those are 3 of the best wins in college football, maybe 2 of the 3 best wins, and maybe 3 of the top 10, all things considered, given the circumstances. You know, Indiana did what they had to do today, and they're not all going to be easy. And the fact that Indiana was able to pull this off against a Penn State team that wasn't playing like a 3-5 team really illustrates the character this team's got. Doesn't mean that they're going to go and, you know, do anything beyond what they've already accomplished, but it puts them in a position to do so, and that makes a huge difference as they move down the field. And all credit to Penn State. They played defensively as well as I've seen them play, and they played well. That's the thing. Like other than the game at Ohio State, which I'll note was not here, it was on the road. Ohio State did a good job against Penn State. They did it in their own stadium, not here. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, because there's some jerk in the comments who's already like, "Hey, you guys are overrated. Ohio State won by 4." Let's see how that game goes if you're not playing at an Ohio stadium. Point being, ultimately, you got to do what you got to do in these games, and they're not always easy. And stop judging Indiana by a different metric or by a different yardstick than you judge all the other teams in the top 10 when they have games like this. And at the end of the day, Indiana won. Indiana's 10-0. That's really what matters.
Second time, back-to-back years, 10-win Indiana.
Yeah. So, anyway, I'm going to go have a heart attack in the parking lot. But Indiana wins 27-24.
I'm going to go drive to Chicago. Let's keep the weekend going. Let's get a win against Marquette.
That sounds like a great way to spend the weekend. Anyway, folks, we're going to wrap it up here. Our thanks to our sponsors, Jeremy Barbuda with Ironhorn Enterprises for Recite the Drives. Our thanks to Posh Hotel Bloomington. Our thanks to Home Field Apparel. As always, tons of Home Field Apparel here, Penn State and IU stuff across the board. Scott, as always, a pleasure to podcast with you. I hope you have a great trip up. We'll be heading back home.
Well, anybody going to Chicago tonight? Go meet us United Center tomorrow. I'll be with my son, so it'd be nice. But let's go. I know you want to yell, so we'll do a podcast this week. You can just get it all out.
Just doing Janop's primal scream therapy for a solid hour on the podcast. I might actually do some numbers. We might make that subscriber only, though. Anyway,
the subscriber only thing I might put out there, is we have a Google video thing in our living room. Just watch the kids if we're not home or something. And I got some great video of me, my wife, and my son watching the Halliburton shot against the Knicks, because it's it's like wild. I cannot wait to go back and immediately I'm like, we got video of us watching the Cooper catch. I can't wait to go back. What a year it's been. I have 5 different moments where I can go back and get great video of us. We'll see what it looks like, but I might put that on subscriber only. We'll see.
All right. Hey, for Scott, I'm Galen. This is Crimson Cast. Hoosiers win. Hoosiers win. Hoosiers win. We'll catch you folks on the flip side. Stay never daunted. So long, everybody.